Would be on the top like that. The connection is on the side. I will take that off right now and show you. That's where they hook up to the side there. That's what I meant by having the Velcro. It's a little easier to get these things on and off when you need to real quick. You can take a look. The CCD is very important that it's mounted very well, because if that moves in any direction while you're flying, the heli will go out of control. And not bad, you'll save it, but try to fasten that the best you can. So I snake both wires up and through under the gear here. I don't think there's any rhyme or reason or way of doing it, but you definitely want to wire tie it, keep it away from any moving parts in the end. Alright, so let me move the main servo wires here. Well, they look like servo wires. So your main connectors, this one here, that's the 3XS gyro, and like I said, there's a little color code on the front that shows you the black wire, red wire, white, yellow, and orange. So it's pretty foolproof, and the big one is a lot larger, so plug that in, make sure you plugged in good. Same thing, this is the CCD, black facing up. Connected in. Alright, we'll move this back over. These are all the connectors for servo movement. Alright, now I'm just going to push it back on the Velcro for now. And like I said, don't wire tie anything now. You might have to move something around, but alright, so there we go. We have everything mounted. 3XS gyros in here, CCD as close as you can get the center of main shaft. I have my Flymentor on the left hand side, the receiver's on the right hand side. Alright, now what we need to do is snake this batch of wires back through in the opposite direction over the gyro, because they have to go to the receiver. And it's tough if you got big fingers. Alright, straighten out my Flymentor. Like I said, you can put a wire tie completely around the Flymentor if you want, if you feel safer. It worked out well just with the Velcro with me, but except for the CCD, they recommend two-phase tape. I'm using Velcro so it doesn't damage anything, and that's why I'm using Velcro, but I'll put some extra pieces in there later. Alright, we got this through now. Now I'm going to turn the bird around. And snake this through towards the RX. Now, next we'll be removing the wires from the turnigny RX, replacing them with the Flymentor's servo, and all the servos will run back to the Flymentor. And like I said, I'm using my standard gyro, so it's only going to be a 3-wire connection. I'll be using, of course, the 3-wire one. It has black, red, and white wire. That's going to go to RX1. I'm going to use the yellow wire that goes to channel 2 on the receiver, and then also I'm going to use the orange wire, which is the 6th channel on the receiver. Now, as for the gray wire, that's the rudder channel, and the blue is the Flymentor gain, and green is, well, green might be the gain, and then blue is the on-off for the Flymentor. You can use these. I'm just going to try to make this simple for you to get the Flymentor to work. You don't really need to turn it on and off if you're going to try to use it. When you get good at it, you can set it up on another channel, and you'll be able to shut the Flymentor on and off and fly normal, or you know, to turn the Flymentor on so you can have a little bit more hovering ability. But our next thing is to change all the wires. Okay guys, now that you have everything mounted, you had a you know, we're not starting from scratch here. We actually had a 450 that flew, like me, and I was just having trouble with nose-in hovers and, you know, pirouettes, stuff like that, so I figured the Flymentor would help me out. So you're working off a working 450 helicopter. So you're not starting from fresh. Some instructions are showing you how to, you know, rewire your whole RX, but what you want to do here is, because you had a running one, you want to leave channel 3. I want to, well, you want, and because I'm using my gyro, I'm leaving 3, which is your ESC throttle. You leave that in your original your Turnigny 9X, or if you're using a different type of radio, you have to work that out. But number 3 on the Turnigny is for your ESC throttle. You have 4 and 5, which are both for the gyro. I'm using the external GP750, so I'm leaving 3, 4, 5 in the Turnigny receiver. So that means we have to remove 6, remove channel 6, and just a reminder, my wires were all tied up. I gently cut. You know, anytime you do that, be very careful on cutting your wires free from any wire ties. I've nicked servo wires because of that. But just to be careful. So I want channel 6 removed. I also want channel 2 removed, and channel 1. And what those are your 3 cyclic servos: your elevator, your aileron, and your pitch. And I don't know about you, but when I started out, people started calling them pitch, aileron, and elevator, where in fact it's elevator and left and right aileron. Pitch is a term for the whole swash plate, so that kind of confused me, but everybody still talks both ways. But that's what I learned from a friend of mine, that the 2 front ones here are both ailerons, unless your swash is reversed. But the cyclic 2 are both ailerons. You got aileron 1 and 2, that's what I was told, and elevator. It makes more sense to me, because when you start dealing with the pitches, you're actually dealing with the pitch of your blades, the whole swash going up and down. That means all cyclic movement is pitch. So that's my 2 cents on that. Anybody can say what they want afterwards, but that's what I think. So we have all our servos disconnected. I'm going to drape them over here for now. I'll throw this one back this way, because what they're going to do is end up looping back to the Flymentor. So now our next step will be to connect the Flymentor wires, which is the big ribbon cable, to your Turnigny. That'll be the next step. Okay guys, now we need to connect the wires. I'm going to start with the yellow one first, because it's easier to get the channel 1 in. But channel 2 was originally the elevator. Make sure your signal wire is facing you, the front of the receiver. So what was the yellow wire coming out of the Flymentor is actually the elevator in your Turnigny. Now you have only one wire that has 3 wires in the connection, and it's a white, red, and black wire. That was technically the pitch on your receiver. And just remember, your signal wire faces towards you. Okay, that one's in. Now the orange wire was originally the RX's aileron, and that would go into channel 6, and that's why I marked it channel 6, just to make it easier for me to figure out. Signal wire facing towards you, and Gotta find channel 6 here. It's kind of tight in there sometimes. Alright. And back to what I was saying before, the gray is for the rudder. I'm using a GP 750. You can try to use the Flymentor gyro. I've seen a few guys that recommended an external. If you're comfortable with your external, just leave it. So that would mean the gray wire is left behind, you're not using it. And the blue and green, one's for the Flymentor to shut it on and off with an external channel, and that's why it's nice to have a 8 or 9 channel radio. And the green is the gain for the gyro. And but I'm not using any of those. So like I said, to simplify this whole setup, to make it easier for someone to get just right into it, just dive right in and start flying, I'm going to leave these out. And it's a lot more controls involved when you get that, you know, adjusting your gyro and all that, where my gyro is already set up. I copied all the settings over to the new model, so the gyro is already set. The minute I turn it on, the gyro will work just the way it did from the previous settings that I copied from. Alright, so now our next step will be to connect all the servo wires to the Flymentor. Alright, the next step is hooking up the servos, the elevator, aileron, and pitch, or if you want to call them aileron 1 and 2, to the Flymentor. Let me spin her around. Alright, now the Flymentor has 5 inputs. We're only going to use the first 3. That utilizes for the cyclic part of the rotor. The 4 is always empty. It's even empty if you use their gyro. And 5 is for the rudder. I'm not using 4 or 5 because I'm using an external gyro. The first one we can see right off the hand is your elevator. On mine, it's the one in the back. The pros have it in the front, I think, but my elevator servo is in the back. So the elevator would go to channel 3 or input 3. And the signal wire, which is the orange, not the brown, but the orange, should always face the numbers on the input. So elevator would be number 3. Make sure it's seated properly. Now you want to make sure in the end these wires aren't near anything moving, or they will get damaged. Okay, now the next one I'm going to do is going into channel 2 of the Flymentor. And the signal wire on this one, some of my servos are orange and some are white. Depending on your servos, I have turnigny and those HG600s on here, HT600s. So the wire color is different, but the signal wire is always either a lighter color, and you have the black, which is your ground. So signal wire always towards the number on the Flymentor. This one's going on number 2, which is your bottom right servo. That's this one here. You don't see the servo arm. She's on this side here, but that's your bottom right servo, channel 2. Signal wire facing the front,